let's get the views now of environmentalist Nemo Bassi, who joins us via Skype. He's also attending the program in Madrid, Spain. Thank you very much for joining us at this point, sir. All right. And congratulations also of seeing the last day of deliberations in Madrid. But so far, how has it been? Have all the recommendations or the final conclusions met your approval?
Well, certainly what's going to be seen at the end of the negotiations will be a political declaration. The talks have not made significant progress. There's still not any consensus on getting polluting nations to cut their emissions at the levels that are needed, at the levels that were agreed. We are not seeing sufficient finance being pledged, be put on the table for helping the vulnerable nations to meet up their own commitments. And so the talks have really been very disappointing because, as you must have heard, nations are finding ways to avoid responsibilities and to just keep on with business as usual, to keep on polluting because maybe they are pandering to the requirements of fossil fuel companies who are heavily involved in the discussions.
But why are the odds so stacked against this particular recommendation? What makes it so difficult, seeing as the facts are already speaking for themselves?
One thing to do with this kind of situation is to analyze and understand where we're coming from. There's still a very big colonial background to this whole thing. It's been a system of exploitations, and some countries believe they are resilient enough to withstand the storms that are coming. They believe that they will not be impacted as much as other people would be. And again, the reality is that this is not true because we're seeing wildfires in Australia, in the US, we're seeing floods everywhere. But somehow working together on a multilateral level is not being pursued the way we would expect it.
All right. What have been your observations, especially seeing as a particular group of activists was debadged during this program? Do you think it would have any implications now on the protests that are already gaining ground on climate change?
Well, what the security and the officials of the conference did 2 days ago was very, very sad because you cannot close out the voices of the people. The negotiations are being carried out by official delegates of governments, and civil society groups are only allowed 1 or 2 minutes to make comments occasionally. And to just debauch a lot of people and push people out in the cold was very harsh and very unnecessary. It kind of fed into the trend we are seeing in the world today, where people are forced to go on the streets continuously to protest bad governance. We didn't expect to see this happen at the COP. It did happen, but fortunately, there were negotiations later on that night, and those who were pushed out were eventually allowed to come back into the hall, but not into the negotiation itself, but into the corridors to carry out side events and so on and so forth. And this is one of the most important aspects of this COPs, of the conferences, is not only what happens in the negotiation hall, but what takes place in the outside spaces where people place the real solutions on the table.